So I've made it pretty clear in the past what I think of Xbox and how they've managed their studios over the years, and I've been relatively negative towards them, as they've not really delivered anything that would actually give you a meaningful purchase on their platform or Game Pass in recent times. From constantly releasing unfinished games and shutting down a studio that released their best game, which that's really stupid, I don't know why they would bother doing that. You had Tango Games right there, they were perfect. They made you your best game last year, and for some reason you say you want more games like theirs, and then you proceed to shut them down. And the other one we have is Arcane Austin, the people behind Redfall, and they got shut down because that game did terrible, which isn't surprising, even though they didn't want to make the game and Microsoft forced them to finish it, so I don't know what they bothered doing there, you know. Was it really worth it, Microsoft, adding another bad game to your catalog? And that's pretty much it for the main news, except 2 studios that nobody really knew also got shut down and had people moved around, but who cares? We didn't really know who they were or what they did. They didn't make any big games to my knowledge. So I originally wasn't going to make this video, as I don't really get much of an incentive to make Xbox videos or anything around Xbox fanboys, as I don't get too many views, and the videos just do not perform well in general, because most of my fans are Xbox fans, and I'm sure they don't like to hear me criticizing their favorite brand. And I was gonna leave this to the Xbox Showcase and do this as one big video, but that's like a month away, and who knows when we're gonna have another Salt video, so we might as well get something out just to work with. And it's been a really long time since we've actually had to sit down and criticize Xbox. But regardless, I need to keep consistent, and it's Xbox on the menu this time around. So let's go over the myriad of issues with the Xbox brand, from consumers' trust in the platform, to the games, to Game Pass, to a lot of the incentives to actually be in the Xbox ecosystem is mainly what we're going to talk about. So how about we start off with Xbox Game Pass, the mismanagement, and the leadership of Xbox Game Pass. This will probably just be something very easy to explain and very easy to fix. Just put a lot of the Activision Blizzard stuff on there. Many people want to play the old Call of Duties, people want to play Prototype, Spyro, all these other games on there that they have in their catalog that they're either not selling anymore, or could just put on Game Pass to add a bit more padding and a lot more games, a lot more choice. I don't know why this is so hard for them to do. You're probably not making a lot of money from them. And there are a lot of people that want to play those old Call of Duties, especially the multiplayer, since you fixed those. I don't know why you're not doing it. And especially since you're charging a lot of money for the original CODs, which is honestly insane that you still do that. Even though you fix a service, you could easily just put those games on Game Pass and fix the shortage of Game Pass purchases. Of course you're going to need more than just COD to fix that, but that would be a great way to step into the right direction with Game Pass. But for some reason, you seem to be struggling to do even the most basic things with Game Pass, mainly when it comes down to just adding games to it. Apparently, you've been sitting there for months debating whether or not you want to put the new COD on Game Pass. You don't need to put the new ones, just put all the old Activision Blizzard games on there. It shouldn't be that hard for you to do that. These issues that you have with Game Pass are so easily fixable, but you refuse to do anything with it, and I don't get why you even bother at this point. Because you've already alienated everyone that wants to use Game Pass because you're either not adding stuff to it, you're not giving anything meaningful to it. All you did was roll Xbox Live into it and give a couple more benefits to it of discounts. What's the point in owning Game Pass now? The only time people will ever actually look at Game Pass is when you release a new first-party game and they'll just think to themselves, is it really worth purchasing a full $70 game? And most of the time, it's no. Not even Starfield was worth the $70. And I bought that on Steam. I feel really cheated out of money. So with all that being said, I think it's time that we move on to the actual games itself. What are the issues with them, and why Xbox needs to change those things up. As compared to PlayStation, PlayStation will actually release somewhat of a consistent experience across the board. But then you look at Xbox that only has like one good game in the last couple of years, which is Hi-Fi Rush. I can't tell you when I was properly excited for the last Xbox game. It wasn't like where I was sitting down really looking forward to, like, you know, I could have been somewhat excited, but for the most part, I'm not really excited for any of these games that Xbox is releasing. Avowed, Fable, all look kinda mid, and don't really catch my eye as something that I would be interested in buying. And it probably doesn't help that, you know, previous Xbox games are not feature complete on launch, or missing features on launch, like Halo Infinite, for example. We can also use Redfall, Starfield. They're all missing features and they're being added. Well, one of them pretty much got development stopped on them because of the recent news on Xbox. But for example, Starfield is now getting its what we would call 1.0 patch. It's finally out of early access. It's got some really basic features. And it took them nearly a year to make those basic features, so you know, isn't that amazing? But I think the problem truly lies in the developers when it comes to these games. Xbox has given these developers a lot of freedom to do within their allotted amount of time for their development cycle. meaning that they can prioritize and do whatever they want without Microsoft telling them what they need to get done for launch. And I think that is the biggest problem with Microsoft now, because you don't see this problem with PlayStation that still follows that older mindset of, we're gonna supervise what you do for this game so it can be relatively feature complete on launch. And even though this was mainly a Phil Spencer strategy, I believe it's really damaging how games are coming out. I think you need to have a heavy hand on these developers, because if I had my way, and if I was the leader of Xbox, I was the one pulling the shots, I would have my own personal Grim Reaper go around, and if you haven't made something that is fun, engaging for people to play, and alongside with some monetization, you wouldn't have a job. You would be fired. I would find who your boss is, I would let them know that they no longer have a job, or are associating with Microsoft in any way or shape or form. I know it's a bit heavy-handed, but it's about time that these developers actually got a reality check and stop making garbage games that no one's gonna play. And this isn't just a Microsoft issue, Sony's developers also have this issue of being relatively lazy and stupid for the most part. I mean, they still do make more consistent experiences than Microsoft, but oh my god. Sony's emphasis on modern-day politics in their video games is insane. But then again, Microsoft is coming up behind them to come take that from them. They're gonna make their ugly women in video games because apparently people want to have themselves represented in a game, not use it as a medium to escape from real life, but I guess that's what people want these days. God, I miss the 360 and PS3 days. It was different back then. Games were actually made to be fun. And actually were finished products for the most part. Isn't that amazing? On the talk of representation, I need to talk about this, as it's kind of something that's bugged me for the last couple of years. When Daddy Blackrock won't even do the proper representation for Australian people, I'm so sick of it. All these games, media forms, can't even do actual historically accurate Australians. But then again, if they were to do that, it would probably not last too long. Australians aren't known for being the most nicest people. Unless you're one of those fake Australians that live in America that are the most nicest individuals. You know, you're fake, you couldn't drink as much alcohol as me. Frauds, fakes, fake Australians, filthy Australians. I'm the Uncle Ruckus of my own people. I hope you know that. So how about we move on to the actual leadership of Microsoft, as I think I've already said everything that we need to about games. They don't really make good games, that's pretty much the gist of the argument. And they really don't help by having those bad games and use them as an incentive to purchase, because it really leaves a bad impression for people that don't have an Xbox. So where should we get started with the leadership? We could always start off with Phil Spencer, the man that is always apologizing for the mistakes that he made or put himself into. Redfall is a great example. After that game came out, he came and apologized and told us that we cannot compete with PlayStation. Which I think anyone with a business mind should not do that. You should never admit defeat to your competition. You should always have your head down and willing to do better and better, even though the argument was that you're never going to win as many new players because no one wants to switch and lose their libraries. That is absolutely agreeable. But to sit there and say that you can't compete and that you're not willing to put the effort in to compete doesn't really give any of your existing fan base anything good to work with. And all you've done is alienate your fan base and them losing trust in you because you're not willing to put that effort in to actually compete. Because for some reason you think having such a loser mentality is gonna help you win brownie points with your community. It won't. It just makes people lose faith repeatedly over and over again. Especially with Xbox mainly getting mostly negative news around them pretty constantly. From studio closures, employees being fired, from game developers getting certain games cancelled, games being stuck in development hell like Fable. This should have been out a couple years ago, but for some reason you can't even get games like that out. And for some reason it also took you forever to fire the people at 343 because they couldn't do their jobs and you let them have blunder after blunder repeatedly over and over again. And Halo was only slightly improving under its new management, which is actually pretty good. I'm pretty happy to see Halo Infinite do a lot better. Their microtransactions are still terrible, but you know, at least the game is getting into a state that it should have been at launch. So let's talk about Matt Booty, the man that was responsible for, I think, the Perfect Dark remake, and that's gone through and it's in development hell and now he's responsible for multiple studios now. It's kind of insane to think that someone like that even has a job in Microsoft or the Xbox gaming division as a whole. Because if he can't do one remake, what makes you think he can manage and do all these other things for the exact same company? Someone like him, Phil, and Sarah Bond should have all lost their jobs some time ago because they can't manage to do some of the most basic things in their company. It is insane that these individuals, all they have to do is fail upwards, acquire studios, and then somehow they get to keep their jobs. It is insane that you can't release a good product, a functioning product, and you've left your community in an uncertain state on the future of your platform, their game libraries, what they're going to do in the future, and this is why I believe all of them should just come to PC. Because while Microsoft and Sony shoot themselves in the foot, the PC community benefits the most, and that is why I believe all of you should just come here. There's no point staying on a very weak, underpowered system, when you can spend $1,500 to get yourself a mid-range to somewhat high-end PC depending on how you spend and get your parts. And if you're afraid of losing your libraries, you can always emulate on PC, or somehow use the Xbox launcher. I wish you the absolute best luck when using that launcher. Their download speeds are horrendous. So that's pretty much it for this video. I haven't been with the Xbox ecosystem for roughly a year and a half, 2 years now, I could roughly get off the top of my head. But to say that these issues aren't the same that I was having back then is honestly insane to see that Xbox is still failing to do this. You have so much stuff there, so many things to help you, and somehow, someone like me can come up with probably a better strategy to fix these issues than you can. So that will be all. I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day.